Coming up on today's Louisville Real Estate Show, should you buy a house if there's been a flood in the house? Also, mice. Could they be coming your way? It's very possible. We're seeing more and more of them. And we've got more of your questions and some comments that some of our listeners have made to some of our past shows. Hi, everybody. I'm Bob Sokoler, owner of the Sokoler team, Remax Properties East. Thank you for joining us. And along with us, I'm referring to Cora Henderson, the Pete and Frank Attorneys, LLC. They do a great job of getting your loan closed. And you can reach Cora and the folks over at Pitt and Frank Attorneys at 895-9900. Also here with us, we've got Brad Lawler, who is owner of Home Team Inspection Service and Team Bug Out, which will actually come into play just in a few moments. You can reach Brad and his crew to get your home inspected, or if you need to get rid of some mice or other little bugs, you can reach Brad at 844-411-TEAM. And if you are thinking of selling your home now or in the near future, I'd love to be able to help you. It's free, no obligation for me to come out and talk about the process. No home too big, no home too small. You can reach me on my cell phone at 376-5483 or go to bobsellslouisville.com. Fill out the form there, hit submit, and I'll call you. And by the way, for a free actually a free instant or almost instant estimate of what your home is worth, go to WeSellLouisville.com and fill out the form at the very top. Click on it and it'll get you going. All right, guys, here we go. Mindy sent us an email saying mice are getting into her basement despite her best efforts to deter them from the inside, including spray foaming the joists. Brad, that's kind of quite a
Yeah.
bit of work. Apparently, Mindy's not the only one with the mice problem. We received several emails about the issue, and Brad and I were just talking before we hit the air, and he's seeing it as well. Mindy and others want to know why she's having the problem all of a sudden. How can you eliminate mice in the home? Brad, what do you say?
Yeah, so mice are going to find any way possible into your house. They are coming in looking for food, shelter. As long as they have access to a home, they're in. They may climb a tree, come up through a gutter, find a hole to get behind the fascia board in the attic.
Yeah.
They may take up residence there. They may take up residence in a kitchen. But the thing that you need to do, and here's one trick that I'll share. If I go into a house that has mice in the basement, go down there, turn the lights off, and you'd be amazed at how many holes you see to the outside. But you want to fill the holes up outside. I don't know about spray foaming the floor joist, but I can tell you that there are a lot of gaps around, things like HVAC lines, other holes, dryer vents, anything that's been cut into the outside of the home. A mouse can get in. A mouse's head is only half the height as the width of the head. So if it can go in flat, they go under doors, they go under those gaps. If they can flatten themselves out, they're gonna try to get in. So the first thing to do is do exclusion work outside. There's lots and lots of traps on the market, some that will even catch them so that you can release them. If you release the mouse outside, just know that they're going to try to come right back in. So before you release it, make sure you filled up the holes outside. I swear sometimes we see the same mice just circulating back through, holes in walls. So as long as you got food and warmth, it's starting to get cooler out there. They're going to try to find a way to come in and hang out with you over the wintertime.
Brad, what should we fill those holes with?
So spray foam is not a bad
But
idea.
what is, I mean, spray foam, can't they eat through the spray foam?
Well, they can. I don't know that I see them do that actively. There's other products. I mean, I use a professional product called Excluder, which is kind of like a Scotch-Brite pad, but it has stainless steel fibers in it. I don't know if that's available to the consumer or not, but there are a lot of products you can find. There's a product that's all copper called Stuff It, which is really good. I have seen people use SOS pads or Brillo pads. The only problem with those is that they're steel and they can rust and they will stain the side of your house. But you could even cut up, a Scotch-Brite pad, something that's all nylon, tuck it into the hole, and it's going to work really well. The only thing I'm going to caution everybody is don't tuck anything into a hole that has an electrical line running into it. You don't want to. You're better off caulking those. Don't try to stuff anything there just in case there's any sort of bare metal in contact with a wire.
All right, quickly though, could you not use the same type of caulk that you would use to caulk around sinks
Yes,
and
absolutely.
same
Yeah,
stuff would work, right?
caulks work great. Yep.
All
Yep.
right. Good. All right. Good luck on that one, Mindy, rather. I wish you the best. We wish you, if you are thinking you want to hear this again, because there's a lot of good information, we wish you go over to LouisvilleAnswers.com. It's a redirect to our YouTube channel, LouisvilleAnswers.com. And a reminder, if you want to see what sellers are actually talking about us at closings, we interview some of them, and you can see those interviews at LouisvilleSellersTalk.com. All right. Cora, this question is for you. And Cora, correct me if I'm wrong. Years ago, we always asked to order a survey of the home's property, right?
That's correct. And usually that stemmed from a lending requirement. And it probably changed in the late 90s, but it used to be, historically speaking, the lenders would require a mortgage survey to be done in order to get the loan approved. So we would see those very regularly.
Yeah. So Maddie sent us an email. By the way, folks, you can send an email to me for us to broadcast on the radio. Bob@WeSellLouisville.com, and then put radio question in the subject line and put the actual question in the body of the email. That's the preferred way. Maddie wants to know about surveys, and in the email she wrote us, she says she wants to buy a home, but she's wondering if the property survey is required by most lenders. I know you answered that in part, but what is going on these days with lenders and surveys?
Sure, happy to help with that. So lenders do not require surveys anymore for residential property. And that's because they have coverage in their lender's title insurance policy. So it's not because they don't think it's important. It's because they have coverage. It's less risk because of the type of title insurance that they're receiving. They're getting some protection for that. So I just want to stress that, because I do think surveys are so important for a number of different reasons. And oftentimes they can be overlooked in the process of buying a home because it's just another expense. And, that cost can range for a survey. I'm certainly not a surveyor myself, but, depending on where the property is located, how large it is, for residential, it can generally be, upwards of $500, $600 or more. And so a lot of people don't want to incur that additional cost if it's quote unquote optional. But the reason why I love surveys so much, first and foremost, to know your boundary lines. That is so important. You need to know where your property ends and begins. And by the way, it's not just the lawn mowing patterns or the fence that's on the property. Those could have been erected erroneously. So, knowing where your property ends and begins, and that way you can be able to use your property to its fullest, but also exclude others if they're using your property. You'll know that, and you'll be able to have those protections. Secondly, I want to notate that during the course of a real estate transaction, it's incredibly important for buyers to have a survey, because if there are encroachments, like I mentioned the example of maybe the neighbor encroaching on the property, whether they have a flower bed on your property lines or a fence or a driveway, whatever the case may be, there's lots of different fact patterns there. But it's an opportunity for you to negotiate that before it becomes your problem, for a lack of a better word. Because once you close on it and once you own it, it's yours. Whereas if you're in the course of a real estate transactions, there's opportunities for you to engage with your agent to say, hey, to negotiate with the seller. There's several ways we can cure those types of issues, but you're in a great position because you're getting ready to buy it and seller wants to sell, to be able to get some assistance to work through any of those unpleasant findings in a survey.
Good. All right, Maddie, hopefully that answers your question. A reminder, if you're thinking of selling your home, now or in the near future, we've got a free no obligation booklet that has hundreds of useful tips. If you want a copy, send an email to bob@WeSellLouisville.com and put selling tips in the subject line. I'll send that out to you. And I will also send you, courtesy of Home Team Inspection, a free inspection service. So basically, it's a report on what to expect when you have an inspection. It's a handy, useful piece of reading, and you can get that by sending Bob@WeSellLouisville.com an email and send a word inspection in the email. All right, this goes over to Brad Lawler. Speaking of inspections, Goldie sent us an email saying she's interested in buying her neighbor's house. She went to talk to the neighbor. Turns out the water heater had just broke and flooded the entire house. And it's a ranch on a slab, so the owners are getting the entire house fixed and redone, including a new water heater, thanks to insurance. So Goldie is now wondering, should she still buy the house? What should she look for, in fact, Brad, if she decides to buy it, to make sure that the fixes were done correctly, Brad?
Yeah, so the trick there is to make sure that all of the water has been removed. Restoration companies, that's what they do. They dry houses out when there are water leakages like this, whether it's a pinhole leak in a supply line, or whether it's a water heater that bursts, whether it's an ice maker line. Those small lines can make a huge amount of damage. As long as the house is dried out, and I mean completely dried out. So if there's carpets in there, the padding is removed, probably replaced. Carpets are all dried out. They have dehumidifiers they use. They've got fans that are used. They use heat.
Mhm.
As long as all of those things are done, I think that the house can be put back absolutely in the condition that it was before. The problem is when people try to do those cleanups on their own. They just use a shop vac and they put a box fan in. That's when you can get into a lot of the problems with mold and other issues that, if not taken care of quickly, the mold will begin growing, right away. As soon as the water starts, mold spores that are already there are activated and they begin growing. And that's where they get in behind drywall. That's where they get in to subflooring and worse. That's when they can, the furniture can be, drawn into this. So as long as the restoration company got to it quickly, I think you're fine. But I would definitely want to know what the company did to do the cleanup so that you can identify potential problems. It may be something that they want to conduct a mold air test before, buying the house, just so that they know that, yeah, the house was cleaned up, put back into the condition that is safe and habitable.
Yeah, that's good advice. And what did we say that the mold starts to form 3 days after the introduction of water?
Yeah, mold can start growing as quickly as 24 hours, but
Oh,
yeah, normally within 48 to 72 hours, you're going to start seeing visible mold occurring. There can be places that are hidden where it's already starting to grow, but normally visible mold is about 48 to 72 hours in. You're going to start seeing it appear.
and very quickly, all you need for mold to grow is the water, a
Water,
food supply.
a food supply, and then the temperature, which is the same temperature that we like. So you can't do much
Hmm.
about the temperature. You can't really do anything about the fact that you've got substrates like drywall and leather and fabrics and carpet padding, but you can do something about the water. As long as you take the water out, mold can't grow.
Got it. We're going to take a break. When we come back, some of your comments, our listeners and viewer comments. You can see a rebroadcast of the show, and easy to do. Go to LouisvilleAnswers.com. And we want to tell you, continuing with us after the break, Brad Lawler, owner of Home Team Inspection Service and Team Bug Out. You can reach Brad for an inspection of your home, and whether it's new or you're already living in it and want to have something checked, 844-411-TEAM. And also, if you're going to buy a house, you can't find a better place to get the loan closed than Pitt and Frank Attorneys, LLC. Cora Henderson continues with us after the break at 895-9900 to get a hold of her. And if you're thinking of buying or selling a home, and if it's selling, you can call me, and buying, I'll put you in contact with our agents. If you're selling, whether it's now or in the future, all you need to do is call me, and I'll come out for a free, no obligation discussion on what it takes, what needs to be done, what the price is. You can go and call me anytime, 376-5483. Go to bobsellslouisville.com and fill out the form there. And you can also go to WeSellLouisville.com, and you'll be able to get a free estimate. Just click on the top of the page and you'll get some information that they'll take you to give you what your house is worth. It's a computer estimate, but it works. We're back in a moment on News Radio 840 WHAS. News Radio 840 WHAS, Bob Sokoler, the Louisville Real Estate Show. We're here with you until the top of the hour. Thank you for staying with us, folks. And thank you, Barbara Corcoran of Shark Tank fame and the Emmy that she and the show just won. We appreciate her being a mentor and a friend. Continuing with us, Cora Henderson, who is one of the head folks over at Pitt and Frank Attorneys, LLC. They do a great job of getting your loan closed. You can reach Cora at 895-9900. Also continuing, Brad Lawler, owner of Home Team Inspection Service. They come in as a team. They're the number one Home Team Inspection Service 9 years in a row, hopefully soon 10. And also he's a head guy over at Team Bug Out. You can reach him to get bugs removed or to have your home inspected, 844-411-TEAM. And if you're thinking of selling your home now or in the future, I'd love to be able to help you. Call me for a free, no obligation meeting. We just talk about it. It's me. I come out and we discuss what the plan might be, what the home is worth, and maybe some staging tips as well, all free. And then we figure out what you want to do. You can reach me on my cell phone anytime, 376-5483, or go to bobsellslouisville.com and fill out the form. And you could also go to WeSellLouisville.com to get a free estimate of what your home is worth via our computer, which is almost instant to get you that information. All right, so we get a lot of comments. We get a lot of emails, but we also get a lot of comments. And I've decided I'm going to start reading some of these things. And feel free, Brad, Cora, to jump in anywhere along the lines here of your thoughts. Many of you may remember just last week we ran a story about the worst pantry food and storage mistakes that you're making. It's basically that cans actually last a lot longer in the pantry than the expiration date. So we've got and I'm not going to read the full name. I'm just going to refer to him by initials. JJ sent us this comment. My wife and I found a can of corn in our pantry that was 6 years past the expiration date. And when we opened it, it looked and smelled fine. So JJ said he tasted it and it was as good as a new can. No problem. However, I think you should use caution and common sense when dealing with food. Absolutely right. How long do you keep your stuff, Cora, Brad, in your pantry past the expiration date?
So I often get ridiculed because I regularly comb through my inventory, so to speak. So I throw out stuff, even if it's getting close to the expiration date, because in my opinion, like if they put an expiration date on there, it's for a reason. Especially I pay attention where they have an expiration date, but then some have used by, and I'm like, interesting, little intentional word differences there. But also like, that's great. I'm sure the corn was probably fine. You're probably safe. But unless I'm living in like a post-apocalyptic world, do I really want to, allow for any chemicals or anything else that is grown in there or the contact with the aluminum? I mean, there's all these theories like, does that, contribute to Alzheimer's and all the things? So like, can you do it? But should you do it? Right? Because canned goods especially are so inexpensive. So I don't even flirt with danger, but I also have a very sensitive tummy. It's just not worth it for me because feeling sick is no fun. So you guys are probably different, but that's kind of my take. What's yours, Brad?
Well, Cora, I have to start with the fact that a bottle of water has an expiration date on it, and I've never understood that. Okay, and I understand the plastics. Yeah, okay, I hear you, but I don't pay attention. I'll be honest. I probably just look at the can. If it's got a weird shape, or if I open the top and it's got a funky smell, then I'm not going to eat it or deal with it. But I don't pay that close attention. And kudos to you for going through that pantry and cleaning everything out. My dad is listening right now, and I will share this because he and I had I was down with him a few weeks ago. He and I had a delicious dinner that the product had expired about 2.5 years ago, and it was delicious, and we both survived to tell the tale. I think you did, Dad, right?
Wow. Okay. Let me tell you the other side of that. So one of our employees recently almost lost her father who had eaten some expired, I think she said it was peanut butter, but don't quote me on that, an expired product from their pantry and ended up with E. coli in the hospital and almost died. And so now her and her siblings go over there and regularly check the expiration dates and make sure mom and dad have good food to eat.
Well, I will also tell you, I've spoken about this. My wife, LaDonna, is much like you, Cora, that she looks at those expiration dates and tosses and I applaud that and I respect that. But now that you've said this, I have a feeling and she listens to the show, I've got a feeling has a new zest for going through the pantry and tossing out things. But the story itself had a comment that if it's dented or rusted, that definitely throw out the can, as Brad indicated. On another story that I think, Brad, you were in on, the most overlooked fire hazards in your home. You may remember that one. We talked about different things.
Yep.
Well, Michael sent us a response. He says, at least in my case, cleaning the dryer exhaust is quick and easy. The dryer is right next to an outside wall, and the duct is a full 2 feet long. But that also brings up a question about the duct, the vent from the dryer to the outside, even though this is 2 feet long. Brad, you and I once talked a while ago about the corrugated dryer vent can be dangerous, folks. This is something important.
Yeah, the flexible vents, those that are stretched out to say 6 feet, they can collect a lot of debris quickly, and they will constrict the airflow. There's a higher hazard with those flexible vents. You're much better off taking and just crafting that ductwork with the straight metal, aluminum type of dryer vent. Much safer, much easier to keep clean. Your dryer will run more efficiently, and you're really going to cut down the heat that's built up. Your appliance is going to last longer, and you're going to have less likelihood of a fire.
And on that same story, we struck a chord. We're getting a lot of views. We have our YouTube channel. If you go to the LouisvilleAnswers.com, you'll be able to see a lot of these questions that are broken out individually. That overlooked fire hazards brought a lot of comments. And Cora, let me ask you, if you walk around your home, do you have a lot of extension cords plugged into the walls?
I do not, unless it's Christmas time because we
Oh.
love our lights.
Well, even then, Eagle Scout sent us, he says, I'm surprised you didn't highlight extension cords, Brad, because you were in on this,
Yeah.
and power strips. A lot of
Mhm.
people plug high amperage appliances, window ACs, space heaters, microwaves into an extension cord or power strip, thinking that the breaker panel or the little fuse at the power strip will protect them, but that's often not the case. And it's possible to pull enough amperage through the extension cord to cause it to overheat and have a fire. Brad, thoughts?
Yeah, it's I read the full comment on there. I mean, part of the answer is correct, part of it's incorrect. But yes, you do not want to use a power strip for anything that's pulling a high amperage load. It's power strips are really not intended to be permanent. They're just intended to be temporary. If you plug a few phone chargers into it, you're okay. If, I think in one case someone had said, well, I'm running my air conditioner off of a power strip. One, I don't know what type of power strip you have because those are very high amperage draws, and a power strip does not supplant or take the place of the breaker in the box. But it's true that you're not using, you can't expect the power strip, that little breaker in it to trip. It does not function like a surge protector or an overheat or overload protection. So yeah, you do have to be careful about what you're plugging in. And I would not put a power strip anywhere where it's tucked behind, furniture or dressers or where you can't quickly get to it, because we've all seen them, power strips that have little, scorch marks on them where they have overheated. They're not all created alike. If you buy one on Amazon, it's not like others that you buy on Amazon. So make sure you know what type of load rating you're getting, know what type of gauge of wire, and what, the limit is on that power strip.
Now, is that
Right.
any different when you have those cubes? Like I have one it's a cube and it has the USB port. So,
Right.
a lot of in the kids' rooms, they have like these different lights, LED lights, stuff that they use the USB, and then certainly the phones and other things.
Yeah, those are going to be all very low amperage draws on them. So they're probably, I mean, nothing is perfectly safe, right? But I mean, that's going to be those USB type power ports. They're only pulling, just a few amps on them versus someone trying to plug in, like, if you're plugging in a refrigerator, you're plugging in a window air unit, you should have a heavy duty, probably 12 gauge type of extension cord that you're using in order to handle the load that's carrying. And I think the listener was right to call it out because it was not included in the list. And we know that there's a lot of fires that are started, particularly, I mean, coming into the season where, those little heaters that people are tucking under their desks, and they walk away from those little heaters that are plugged in an extension cord or a power strip. And that's a risk.
We'll continue down the road reading some of the comments from you, our listeners. You can either email me or you go onto our YouTube channel. You'll see the stories and then you can comment there. All right, this question for Cord, this may be the last question for the day. Poppy buying a home, and in this email, a long lost heir of a previous owner of the home that she's buying has emerged, claiming ownership of the property that Poppy is buying. The heir argues that this heir's ancestors' will was improperly probated, rendering the subsequent transfers of the property since then invalid. She's wondering, true? What can she do? And does she pull out?
All right, Poppy, I love your name. It's beautiful, by the way. So it may be true. And that is one of the many reasons why owner's title insurance is essential, even though it's optional. Okay. We have seen that. And where you have an undisclosed heir back in the chain of title, they may very well have an interest in that real property. So if they brought suit against you and challenged your interest, that would be your out-of-pocket cost to defend. And potentially you could lose, your investment, the money you've put into that property via purchase price improvements, et cetera. But if you have owner's title insurance, they will pay to protect you for that, assuming that's a covered risk, which, generally that fact pattern it would be. Also, just letting you know, Kentucky probate can be sometimes, especially from an intestate and affidavit of descent, a little bit loosey-goosey, so to speak. So it's not as tight as some of the other states, surrounding states that we have for probate, like Indiana, for instance, which is a little bit tighter. So I think that makes us a little bit more vulnerable. So for maybe some of those undisclosed errors, or whether it be intentional fraud, maybe, another family member just forgot conveniently, I'm putting air quotes around forgot to name this error in an affidavit of dissent. So there's so many things that could have contributed to that as to how this person is popping up later on. But nonetheless, I mean, if they have a right to the property, then they have a right. They have an interest and should be compensated for that. We just want to make sure that you're protected because obviously that's something that you knew nothing about and did not intend for. Now, you said buyer. If you're buying the property and you haven't bought it yet, then the seller would need that owner's title insurance to make a claim. In fact, most good contracts will have that seller's contractual obligation is to provide good and marketable title. So that marketable title would be, one that's insured. So if the seller has owner's title insurance, they can make a claim, get that figured out. And, frankly, I'm not meaning to scare you, but it's possible that transaction may not go through just because the claim is covered.
Yeah, and if this issue has risen, can Poppy buy owner's title insurance? Will a title insurance company write on that house if they know that there's a chain of command break? And
I would say it's well, I would venture to wonder if it would even be insurable.
Yeah.
Certainly, if they were able to have coverage, that would be excluded. That type of coverage would be excluded. But I think given the severity of what you're saying, I doubt that that's even insurable. So that's why I said I'm not even sure that her purchase will be able to come to fruition until that issue's solved. Because let's be honest, that seller may not own the property depending on the type of interest that this undisclosed heir has. If they allegedly have 100% interest and they're the rightful owner of the properties, not the seller.
Got it. We are out of time. Our thanks to Cora Henderson, who is one of the head honchos over at Pitt and Frank Attorneys, LLC. You can reach Cora to get your loan closed and for a variety of other things over at Pitt and Frank Attorneys. You can reach them at 895-9900. Also, our thanks to Brad Lawler, owner of Home Team Inspection Service. They come in as a team, and he also owns Team Bug Out. So you can get your bugs removed, or your mice, if you listen to the beginning of the show. You can reach Brad at 844-411-TEAM. And by the way, you can re-listen to this show. LouisvilleAnswers.com is the place to go. And a reminder also, you can see what people are saying about our Sokoler team by going to LouisvilleZillow.com or LouisvilleGoogle.com and reading our reviews. And if you're thinking of selling now or in the future, I'd love to help you with a free no obligation estimate. It's me, no home too big, no home too small. Call me 376-5483 or go to BobSellsLouisville.com. We're out of time. See you next Sunday on News Radio 840 WHAS.